Hello, my beautiful internet friends. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. At the beginning of 2024, I did a video talking about the 2024 releases that I was super excited for. However, I'm more plugged into new releases now. I have a general sense of the books that are coming out over the next few months, and I want to talk to you about those that I'm excited for, and also potentially give you some ideas of what you might want to put on your radar. So without further ado, let's jump on into the video. Now, before we jump on in, you should take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm telling you what I remember of the summary of these books, but I give you no guarantees or promises that I'm actually correct. We have You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. This is an MM sports romance set, I believe, in the 1960s. What I know about this one is that this is an MM sports romance. As I mentioned, it is between a baseball player and a journalist who's like documenting his story, and it's their romance. I didn't know it was set in the 1960s at first, so we have a very interesting historical MM sports romance. I just think it sounds so intriguing, and so I'm excited for this book to come out on May 7th. This one specifically is for my people who like the writing retreat. I think that they have a lot in common from the general summary. The Deepest Lake by Andromeda Romano Lux is a story of this mother who goes undercover at a memoir writing retreat, and she's trying to find out more about her daughter's mysterious death. I am getting like writing retreat vibes, just in the sense of that there is a mystery that is trying to be solved. I'm assuming the mother is out for revenge in one way or another, and this book, as you can see, is releasing on May 7th. These next few books are all releasing on May 14th, so May 14th is a very stacked publishing day. The first one I have for May 14th is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Now, this is an interesting choice for me. I'm cautiously excited for this just because I've only loved one Christina Lauren before, but The Paradise Problem seems like a really interesting story. So in this one, we're following a man who is the heir of like this grocery store conglomerate. I don't fucking know. He is in line for an inheritance of hundreds of millions of dollars, and he needs to be married in order to get this inheritance. But when he was in college, he married this artist so that they could get cheaper housing together, and they supposedly divorced, as far as the artist knows, except that he comes back to her. He's like, so do you want to be my wife so I can get this money? And it is their love story. I think that just sounds very interesting, and I'm hoping that it's going to be funny, so I'm excited for this one. Then there is Love at First Book by Jen McKinley. This is a story of a librarian, and she is a librarian in Martha's Vineyard, and she ends up moving to Ireland because her favorite author is dying, and her favorite author has requested that she write the last book in the series to finish it out. So she goes and she does that, and she ends up interacting with the author's son, and they fall in love. I'm expecting a lot of like emotional angst throughout this because it's a story of this author who's dying, and she obviously is very loved. So I'm imagining the son is dealing with grief, and that the librarian herself is also dealing with the death of her favorite author. I'm not sure if she actually dies. I just thought the author herself is sick in this story. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. Lots of haunted house stories are coming out this summer, and I'm going to be live, laugh, loving, because if you are new here, I love a haunted house story. So we have The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry. This is a story of a woman who loves horror movies, and she gets a job cleaning houses in Hollywood. And one of the houses that she has to clean is for this famous horror director. She's doing that, and she's fangirling over all of the memorabilia in the home, except that while she's cleaning one day, she hears someone screaming for help in a locked room, and the story goes from there. I'm expecting either a high-paced thriller or a campy mystery. Either way, I think I'm gonna have a good time. Apologies now because I am gonna butcher this name, but I have My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Von Veer, and this is a haunted house sapphic murder mystery. So in this story, we're following a woman who can see ghosts and can talk to spirits, and one day she is contracted by this wealthy older woman who says, please come to my very haunted house and just stay with me because I need help with the spirits. She agrees, and these two form a relationship, so there is a bit of an age gap, except that one day the older woman, I don't remember her name, she it ends up being accused of murder because someone dies and the police seem to think that it's her and they don't believe her, obviously, when she's like, no, it was the fucking ghost. But her lover, who can see ghosts and who can work with paranormal, knows that it was the ghost, and it becomes the story of her trying to potentially prove her lover's interest, but also try to figure out what's going on with these spirits. This is my first time reading from this author, but this sounds like a really interesting premise. The Honey Witch by Sydney Shields. Does it need an introduction? No. I'm hoping this lives up to all the expectations I have in my head, and to be quite honest with you, I don't know what this book is about. I don't. All I heard was sapphic, cozy cottagecore vibes, and that is really all I need to know. Wow. I'm realizing how many of the books on this list are actually paranormal, because I have Looking for Love in All the Haunted Places by Claire Kahn. This is the story of a woman who is a paranormal psychologist. She's trying to get her master's, but she needs money, and she ends up taking this gig where she works on this production set where everyone who has worked on that set has quit due to some very bizarre reasons. So she is going there to try to figure out what's going on, and I believe it turns into a love story. It sounds kind of campy. It sounds fun. I've never heard the spin of paranormal psychologist, so I'm really excited to see how that plays out in this story. We have another spooky film story. This is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. This is a story of a film that was made in like the 80s. However, this film was never finished and only 3 scenes were officially like released to the public. But the people who've seen that have been completely obsessed with them, and it's like a cult favorite, even though the film was never fully released. And they decide that they're going to remake this in modern times, in our times. And they get a team together, and they get the only remaining, I believe, original actor to also come and be on this film remaking, because that he knows that what went down in that film was not something that should have gone down, and I'm expecting it to go completely into chaos. I'm cautiously optimistic for this one because I have not loved a Paul Tremblay, I don't believe, so I'm hoping that this one really works for me. And that's coming out on June 11th. Of course, I'm gonna talk about Ali Hazelwood, but I'm gonna put this one with a grain of salt because I'm not as excited for this one. This is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and this is a story of a woman who works in like pharmaceuticals, I believe. Of course, it's part of like her STEMinist world, and her company is being bought out, essentially a hostile takeover by this other company, and she's not happy about it. However, the person who's like leading this takeover, she ends up having a lot of chemistry with this man. They're enemies, but they're like, you know what we should do? We should fuck. So I believe this is Ali Hazelwood's like steamiest romance. The reason I'm cautiously excited about this one is only because I don't know how I'm going to feel about the whole friends with benefits, but they're not actually friends, so really just enemies with benefits. I don't have 100% confidence that I'm going to love this one, so I will not purchase this one, but I will read it from my library. This one I would say I'm most excited for because the premise is so campy and hilarious. So this is How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive by Craig DeLuey, and this is a story of a possessed demon camera. They're trying to film something, but what they're filming on potentially is demonic. Does that not sound silly goofy? I'm very curious to see how the author tackles this premise, but mostly I'm excited for like the spooky, scary scenes, but also just like the silly laughs, because I do really love a campy horror or a campy thriller. What have I most anticipated? This is a novel love story by Ashley Paustin. If you're new here, Ashley Paustin wrote The 70-Year Slip, which was one of my favorites of last year. I also enjoyed The Dead Romantics from this author, and this is another kind of speculative supernatural romance from her, where we're following this woman named Eileen, and Eileen loves romances. She loves romance novels. I believe she's also a professor of literature, specifically specializing in romance. So she's going to this book convention and she's just viewing it as her break. This is her chance to meet her favorite authors, hang out with her friends, and just to like unplug from reality a little bit while still gushing about her love for reading and love of books. However, she ends up stranded in this small town that's straight out of a romance novel. Literally straight out of her romance novel. Specifically, her favorite romance science series. And she's like, what the hell is going on here? Of course, as she's navigating this, she also ends up meeting the grumpy bookstore owner who perhaps has his own agenda, and it is their love story. This just sounds like a really fun time. I'm really loving the silly premise of this, but as always, I know that Ashley Paulson is going to bring in a lot of emotional complexity and heavier feelings throughout this story, so I'm ready to both laugh and cry. So those are the books coming out in May and June that I'm really looking forward to. If there's a book that's releasing in May and June that you're aware of that I didn't mention in this video that you're excited about, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to add it to my TBR. As always, thank you so much for watching, my beautiful internet friends. If you would like to leave me a comment but you're not sure what to comment, or you just want to let me know that you've gotten to this point in the video, appreciate you for doing that, then you can leave me a stack of books in the comments to let me know that you've gotten to this point, and that is for A Novel Love Story by Ashley Paulson, and I am going to see you in my next video. Bye!